Good morning, everybody.
And
Welcome, welcome to the Abundant Life Center service for September 22nd, 2024. Today, our Reverend Carol Becker is going to be discussing or leading us in a discussion about unconditional happiness. We can all use some of that, I think. I guess so. We'll find out whether it's a choice or it's something that happens to us. But we're going to start. I'm going to start by lighting the God candle. Going old school here. I light the God candle as a symbol of the one power in the universe called by many names. The name you choose to use is welcome here. And there we go. And we will start the second Sunday of the month. We share our values. I was muted, or was I not? Okay. Anyway, we all read our values. Okay. Let's see. Oh boy. This new iteration of Zoom has me having to do a lot before I figure out what's going on. So do you want to, well, anyway, we could all read our values, so I guess we're good. Okay, so Eric's going to play the first song called Open the Eyes of My Heart. All right, so we'll move into our meditation. The title for this meditation is The Path to Unconditional Happiness. That was very powerful. I wish I'd had that meditation when I was 18. I think it could really change a life. Okay, so next, Carol is going to, let's see, Carol's going to unmute herself and we're going to start our discussion about unconditional happiness. Carol?
well, there's nothing more I need to say. The meditation said it all. We can go home now.
Okay.
But the thing is, I'm going to share my screen for just a moment here. My favorite cartoon forever has been Charlie Brown. Do you ever think much about the future, Linus? Oh, yes, all the time. What do you think you'd like to be when you grow up? Outrageously happy. And I fell in love with that cartoon the first time I found it, and I just keep it around me because I really like that. So I'm going to stop sharing now and go back to the talk. So I was dealing last week with a whole bunch of very complicated personal problems. And I wasn't able to spend any time thinking about what I was going to talk about today. So I started looking through my email to see if anything would inspire me. And once again, Craig Hamilton inspired me with Unconditional Happiness. And so a lot of what I've got here are his words, interjected with my own from time to time. So he says, what if genuine happiness doesn't depend on anything outside of us? The practice of being an unconditional yes sounds simple, but as we get into it, we find that we encounter an unquestioned belief or the assumption that is really core to the human condition, that circumstances are what make us happy. And as the assumption goes, circumstances are what needs to change before we can be happy. And there are external circumstances, like I don't have enough free time, I can't be happy. I'm not in the right primary relationship, I can't be happy. I don't have enough emotional support, or I'm too financially insecure, or I'm not in the right job, I can't be happy. It could be any kind of external circumstance that we imagine. But guess what? We also have internal circumstances, our thought patterns and emotional patterns and relationships. So I have a monkey mind, and therefore I can't really meditate until I figure out how to get this mind quieted down. So we've been conditioned to react to things, emotional ups and downs and reactions, monkey mind, negative thought patterns, whatever else composes our whole inner world. And just what if none of that was an obstacle to my unconditional happiness at being alive? Notice that little at being alive part? So we're discovering that something that is unconditional means it's not dependent on anything else. We're discovering that life, existence, our own very being, who we are in our essence, is sacred and divine, is extraordinary, beautiful beyond comprehension. And that's what is always there, always ready to experience in this experience of being alive. So just for a moment, assume that in this moment, there's nothing missing from this moment. This moment is already whole and complete. Nothing is missing from it, and nothing about it needs to change. It's already got everything you need. So stepping into that perspective, we're exploring our experience from the perspective of spiritual freedom instead of from conditioned perspective we already have. So we're short-circuiting all that circuitry. We're taking the position of no, just right now, in this moment, this experience, there's nothing wrong and nothing missing on a fundamental level. Take the position that even if things are very hard for you, even if you're having a really hard time, fundamentally, they're still not an obstacle to spiritual freedom and the deeper knowing of something that makes us unconditionally happy in the face of everything. But could we continue to be human beings who are working to improve the life for ourselves and others in all kinds of ways, even as we remain rooted in the fundamental knowledge that on an essential level, in terms of that which is truly fulfilling and liberating, that on that level, nothing is missing, nothing needs to be added, nothing needs to be changed. So just see if you can, in this moment, embrace this moment as it is, and not sort of begrudgingly accept those experiences are here, but really just see they're not a problem. Really see that nothing that's happening is an obstacle, and really see that nothing is missing. And there was one paragraph in here that I love. The experience of life itself, the life force that's flowing through us, the evolutionary force moving in the cosmos, this amazing event that is happening right now, always, in every moment, brings tears to our eyes. This is Craig talking. When we see what it is, we see that this is why words like sacred, holy, and divine were invented. None of the secular terminology can do it justice. It's so extraordinary, and its discovery is so utterly transformational. And so that's what I found and stole or borrowed or accepted or what's another word for that?
Shared.
Yeah, shared. Thank you. From Craig. And again, I really, one of my high values is happiness. Another high value is kindness. Another high value is integrity, but that's not what we're talking about. Today we're talking about happiness. So last week when all that was going on with my car and with my long-term care insurance and with my garden and what else was going on? Anyway, and then as I found this thing to talk about, I thought anytime during all of that worry and stress, I could have decided for just a moment to let myself be unconditionally happy. And so that's what I've got to say today. And I invite you to talk about times when you could be unconditionally happy or wish you could have been, or whatever you want to talk about.
I want to start with sharing, not about myself. Your Charlie Brown cartoon is so adorable, and it brought to mind a John Lennon story. And I don't know which came first, but the story goes that John Lennon's teacher in elementary or middle school asked the students what they wanted to be when they grow up. And John said he wanted to be happy. And the teacher said, no, 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 you're not understanding the question.
Yeah.
Very good.
No wonder he's such a philosopher, huh? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. He was a born philosopher.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that meditation was very powerful for me. I felt that was really good. Can you, Carol, who is Craig Hamilton? Maybe you shared that with us before, but he seems like he's a very wise person.
Yeah, he has a podcast and he posts on daily. I think it's daily anyway. And the first time I saw one of his posts, I said, I've got to find out what more this guy has, because he really speaks to my inner desires for happiness and spirituality. And I'm always eager to find out what he's going to say next.
It's
And
kind
how
of
that-
like a gift every day, where a gift every time you listen to his podcast.
Right.
Isn't it interesting though, especially reflecting on my engineering path, that you always look for happiness as a result of a problem. I mean, you have a problem, you work on it, you solve it, and you're happy, right? And then you work on the next problem. And again, you work on it and you get happy. So it's always one of these continuous cycles that you are in an engineering fashion to try to solve problems, because that's the nature of an engineer. I mean, that's what I experienced my whole life, right?
Yeah, and so does that mean that as you're retired and no longer, well, you're still trying to solve problems, but does it require a little shift in perspective?
Well, I think the intensity changes in terms of, in terms of trying to find a problem. The problems as an engineer come to you daily, right? Here, they don't come to me daily, so I can be more happy when I have more time to be happy. So.
Judy or Arlene, or do either of you guys have some comments on that? I'm curious to know your perspectives, Judy.
Yeah, I'm going to try and make this short, but I can get on my soapbox here.
Take your time.
We're all a work in progress, okay? from beginning to end. And it's a daily, I don't want to use the word struggle, but yet in many ways it is a struggle to maintain balance, because we live in a world of duality, and as Norman has said on several of his talks, there are two sides to every coin, your heads and your tails. So every human being has a light side and a dark side. And try and maintain that balance and take care of everything and learn about our own dark side and try to shift that to the light side by learning our lessons throughout life, but also trying to maintain a balance there. But the problem I see is that most of us think and speak in a subjective manner instead of an objective manner. When we speak subjectively, the word selfish comes to mind, because the word selfish is in the dictionary to describe subjective thinking. You're only thinking of one thing. But if you are objectively thinking, it's like I can put myself behind a short wall and observe and see, try and see both sides of the coin, either myself or whomever I'm dealing with. And it is a struggle, and it's hard to maintain. And I guess it boils down to is that we forget to put ourselves in the other person's shoes too. And it comes back to the self. And in all of that, we still are searching for our own happiness.
And I like that,
That was
Judy,
a mouthful.
because I know that as we're working with those challenges, we know that unconditional happiness is still available to us, whether we choose to access it or not.
Charlie, your Charlie Brown picture is a little bit misleading, because you have Linus, a small kid, who by definition have unconditional happiness, right? And yet we struggle as older people to have this unconditional happiness. So what do we need to do to get back to this state of young kids, in some ways?
Yeah.
I've always kind of wondered in our Constitution, where it says we have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And what were our forefathers thinking to put that into the highest laws of the land, that we have the right to pursue happiness, but it doesn't promise happiness. So what was their motivation or train of thought that happiness is something you pursue?
Well,
And also I was struck in the notes that Carol shared from Craig Hamilton, who, by the way, I looked up on Facebook. I'm now following. He's Craig Hamilton Parker is his name, and he's looks like a little bald Indian guru. He's got 8.7K followers. Is that million or what? 1,000. He's a medium, author, and spiritual inspirer. He sounds like he takes a lot from maybe Buddhism. But if we're conditioned to react to things, it seems like we could uncondition ourselves to react to things and condition ourselves to think happiness. And when I heard what Carol's topic was yesterday, I went to my bookshelf and I found this book from the Dalai Lama, one of my favorite gurus, The Art of Happiness. And he talks about opening your heart and opening to others and how we're all the same, we're all human beings. And and it made me think, when you're opening to other people, you're thinking of somebody other than yourself, which has kind of been expressed in a couple of other comments here today. So, thinking about yourself, like Judy said, subjectively eliminates thinking about other people, which I think when you think about other people and open your heart, you do bring happiness to yourself and them, and therefore to the world.
Yeah.
Random thoughts.
Well, that always brings to mind that other cartoon that I liked that showed two people in front of a symbol on the floor, and the symbol on the floor was a 9. No, it was a 6. No, it's a 9. No, it's a 6. And they're both right from their point of view.
Uh-huh.
So I like that, looking at other people's point of view to understand how they come to believe or say what they're saying.
Does anybody else have any comments to add? Yes, Cindy,
I think am I unmuted?
you are.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it all works using my phone. It's different than my computer. Well, several people have already mentioned it, but the phrase that really stuck out to me was conditioned perspective. And I just realized it's like my whole life until there's like little cracks in the clouds or something. My life is full of conditioned perspective. And it almost feels, for me, the personal experience is, if I choose unconditional happiness, then I'm a super selfish, all about me person. I mean, that's kind of maybe even the Christian perspective, because I have found it difficult, the idea of how can I be happy, choose happiness when the world is full of suffering. And it's like, that's a difficult perspective for me to let go of. That it's okay. It's almost like it's okay to be happy. And but then if other people are miserable, then I think somehow, in my perspective, conditioned, that I'm supposed to help them be happy, and then it gets all tangled up. And so, but the simplicity of like the cartoon, and I just choose to be happy. And I think, well, how can I be happy when I feel sick? But it is cracking through my cloud that, wow, the idea that is actually possible, to break into that. I'm happy no matter what. But I'm listening to the meditation, was like, I could feel this sort of a joy, or like, could that really be true? That just sounds awesome. It sounds wonderful. It sounds so like connected to the whole evolution and creative energy of the universe. So I'm challenged and delighted by this idea.
Great. Okay. Laurel, you're muted still.
It seems almost, it's like a perspective. You'd have to learn it kind of like in, I want to say school, or as coming up. You know what I mean? In a group kind of setting. It's hard to learn it, I would think, that kind of perspective individually. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just kind of isolated on its own, people individually learning it on their own. maybe doesn't work as well, because to me, it sounds, and I think maybe we all have moments of it. I feel like I do, but unless more people have it, then it's hard to live it. Does that, and I think certain religious philosophies have it more so, and certain cultures have it more so than we do in this culture or political climate or something. That's just my sense of it. I
Well,
mean, it has to
yeah,
be reinforced somehow. Does that, yeah, that's kind of what.
it would be an amazing way to bring up a child, or to a culture to live in. Wow, I'll move into that commune where everybody's goal is unconditional happiness.
But if you come up, if you are coming up in a certain culture or climate, and that's what you learn, then that's what you learn, and you don't,
Yeah.
unless you're a remarkable individual, you don't learn anything else really. I mean, you can learn it, like we're trying to learn something different, right?
And being aware of it
Yeah,
is the first step in learning about it. Awareness shifts a lot of things profoundly.
right.
Yeah.
And Judy had something she wanted to add.
Yeah, I've got a comment for both of them. For Laurel, there are two kinds of people. There are leaders and there are followers. And in the beginning of life, we are followers because we all want to be accepted as part of the whole. But as we grow up, we can remain a follower and be a part of the narrative that we were brought up in, or become a leader and separate yourself and learn about yourself and grow from there. And then with Cindy, we are all energy. We could forget that we're energy. And when we are happy or joyful, we put our energy out into the universe, out there. We have no idea how far our energy flows to other people in other areas. On my block, I could be the only one that is happy, but I have no idea how much my energy is spread to other people in the neighborhood that may be feeling sorrowful. And I will never know that answer. But just the idea of being happy, I know my energy is being put out there and I'm spreading it in some way or form.
Yeah.
But, but you see, it's kind of interesting because I think there are two aspects. One is the choice that you make with the people that you surround yourself, right? And you can surround yourself with people who are elevating you. And I'm interested only in people who are elevating me, not necessarily people who are taking me down. But on the other side, let's say you get into a community and you have neighbors, and this neighbor does this, that neighbor does the other things, and they trigger you in one way or another. And each one of these triggers is an opportunity, okay? An opportunity to recognize what is going on inside of you and grow out of it, right? But if you don't immerse yourself into this kind of community or environment, you're not going to get the triggers. So it's kind of damn if you do, damn if you don't, right? You got to do both.
When I was growing up in northern Idaho, when my folks were divorced and my aunt and uncle agreed to take us on, and my aunt was constantly telling me how much she had to put up with to take us. She couldn't have nice furniture. She couldn't have nice dishes. All the things she couldn't have. And all the while, your mom is out there dancing and having fun. Guess what? I said, I want to be like Mom. I want to have fun. I don't want to be like this miserable person. Now, my aunt had a really positive intent for me for that. And it took me until I was in my 60s to learn what it was. But I did learn right away that I wanted to be happy.
Carol, what I see, your aunt played the victim role. She played the victim.
Yeah.
And you learned about that and you grew out of that.
Yep.
And you chose your own path.
Right. Totally.
Mhm.
I think I was born just a little bit of a very selfish, introspective person.
Rebellious.
Rebellious, yes. In the farm in Nebraska, I was the first child, and the other kids didn't come along till later, and I don't actually remember them even being there, even though they were.
So
I spent a lot of time by myself having fun.
Paul and Cindy and Arlene, everybody's ready to share. So Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a thought here. I really enjoyed today. I don't know that I was feeling happy, if the right word is happy, though. I felt it of deep peace and assurance. And like nothing could go wrong right now.
Contentment is a good word.
I wonder if for myself, I find myself in different states of being. I'm not in this state all the time. I got in an argument with Henry the other day, and we were going at it and see who was going to win, you know. And and I mean, it was tense, but I think I won, but I wasn't feeling happy. I wasn't really happy about it, you know. There's times when I'm really scared or something happens and I retreat to my defensive mode. I'm trying to make a point, and sometimes my ego gets in there and wants me to add a little BS to it and make it a little better, you know. And but today, I've just been sitting here very content and watching and listening and participating in my mind with you. And I'm not sure if I would express it as happiness, as more being in content. Content with my being. I'm at peace with the world. But it isn't it's a state that I'd like to be in more often. And so I remind myself when I'm in controversy that I can be in this state. I've learned this in being in this organization. That I have lots of power that I didn't have before to put misery aside and enjoy things. And I can do it more often. So I think we're fooling ourselves. We think we can be in one state of mind all the time. I don't think we're made that way, but we sure can learn to find a path to retreat to, if nothing else, when the world gets too tough for us. That's just a thought I had.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul.
Arlene?
Yeah, I had one heck of a week last week, and this whole picture that we're kind of talking about and wrapping around has everything to do with it for me, creating my happiness. My brother Randy, he's younger than me, and he has been one who is everything that happened to Randy when we were growing up was somehow my fault. If he fell down, if he hurt himself, if he did something stupid, and Randy did a whole bunch of stupid things last week, and it started with his driving a car that wasn't really drivable and then wrecking it, and then talking to his insurance and getting a whole bunch of money to go buy another car. And the car that he wanted to buy, he called it a chip magnet. And he sent me a picture of this little hot rod that looks a lot like a Corvette. And that none of that was okay with me. I love Corvettes, you know, I loved the car. It was a cool car. I'd drive it in a minute, but somehow that Randy was buying this thing was totally stupid. And he was buying it because it was a chick magnet, was all the way stupid. And then when he went to the car, he had a pocket full of money, like thousands of dollars in his pocket to go buy this car. And he went to a car dealer that he found online and he fell out. Fell out means fell on the ground, couldn't get up, got up, fell back down, had to call an ambulance, went to the hospital, almost died, calling me, hey, Arlene, I'm in the hospital, told me all about it. And I didn't know if he's going to live or die or what, but I was mad enough at him. It didn't matter. It was like his choice to live or die. And he was doing stupid shit and driving his car and not. And then he started telling me he wanted me to come and live with him. He lives up in Sandy, Oregon on the mountain on the Sandy River. He's got all kinds of like hawks and birds and critters and eagles catching fish in the river and all these stories to tell me. And then he's telling me what can be my bedroom and how the house should be and all of this. And I'm listening to him, and I'm not going to go take care of my brother, Randy. I'm the one in the wheelchair. I don't see him coming and helping me do anything. And so all I could do is get madder and madder at Randy until Randy almost died. And they had to give him a shock, and his heart wasn't working, and his whole system wasn't working. And they shocked him back to life, and he was better. And then they brought him food in the hospital, and like a menu, and he ordered everything on the menu. So he had tons of food. He's eating like crazy because he's got people feeding him and bringing him food, and he's getting better. And they decide he can't walk. He's got a disability that is like mine, but he's stupid enough he wouldn't go and get the genetic test. You know what he's doing? Smoking weed to feel better. And he's growing his own and doing his own thing. So I'm really mad at him about his whole lifestyle and everything. And poor Randy, somehow my misery is so related to Randy and his choices and how he takes care of himself. I was trying to learn some stuff about that. And you know how I learned it? When I went to bed at night and the moon was out there lighting up my room. That moon was beautiful. And I remembered going into the sweat lodge and doing prayer. And prayer would start with Great Spirit Grandfather, Mother Earth, Grandmother Moon. Well, Grandmother Moon is like the powerhouse of everything, you know? She's got gravity that makes the tides go in and out. Her gravity controls everything. And we can't control any of that. We can't get mad at Grandmother Moon when there's a storm or something like that, you know? And so I thank Grandmother Moon every day. Great Spirit Grandfather, Mother Earth, Grandmother. And I remembered this song we used to sing about being in the garden where the mother and the father are one. You know, and the mother and the father are one, and then all the plants grow and all the stuff. We create our own reality. And I'm wondering how the hell my anger with my brother and who he is and his stupid choices has to do with all of that. And I don't know, because I'm really mad at Randy and he wants me to go and rescue him and take care of him. And somehow it's my job to do that. And he can dream on, you know, he can just go back to sleep and keep on dreaming. And that's kind of where I'm at in my life lesson. I don't know quite what it all is, but thank you, Grandmother Moon.
Cindy, you had another comment.
Yeah, I got just a couple things. I was thinking, because my mind goes back to scripture, and I was just hearing some scriptures come to my mind about happiness and joy, and I just jotted down. There's one that in the Old Testament it says, "Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning." And I thought that kind of represents that we have challenges and things to cry about, but that the idea that joy comes in the morning. It might not be literal morning, but I was thinking about that. And then I think Jesus or Paul or somebody said, it's Jesus, because it said, in this life you'll have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome. Like, okay, be of good cheer. There's reasons to come back to happiness, and be of good cheer. And then I thought, there's scripture says a merry heart does good like a medicine. So I just have a little review in my mind about coming back to the perspective of happiness. And then I had a whole nother thought, because I have a monkey mind, in case you didn't know that. Was all the ways that happiness, or I guess you could call it false happiness, or very temporary happiness, or happiness based on circumstances. Like I remember one years ago, my husband and I were in the ministry, and we were pretty much living at baseline poverty. And out of the blue, my dad sent us a check for $20,000. That made me really happy. and that whole perspective of, they say money can't buy happiness, but I think somebody mentioned our culture it teaches us, like, you get successful, you get money, things make you happy. And I realized a couple of months ago, I finally got my well water cleaned up, and it was in my world, it was very expensive. And now when I use it, I can drink it, I can wash dishes and all that, the rust and minerals and all that's all filtered out. And I think, well, that made me happy. Is that shallow? Could I have decided happiness even when the rust and the iron in the water was wrecking things? Or when do you sort of play with that idea of putting new tires on your car might make you happy because you're safer? So there I go with my back and forth. Yes, this, yes, that. There may be some weeping, but there's going to be some joy. So that's
the way it works for me. And I know that in my being somewhere is this place where I know that unconditional happiness is my birthright. And that I can access that knowledge and that feeling anytime I want to. I can be going through bad things, yes, and I may have to pay attention to them at that time, but I also know that in the background, that other part of me knows that everything is well. There's nothing more I need, and I'm okay.
That sounds so true. What I call the crack in the clouds. Like that reality is accessible anytime.
Yep.
That's big for me. Like, I got to remember that.
Judy has something.
Okay. Now, Carol, I love what you said. And I just want to say 2 words to Cindy, is that and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard you saying partially is that you connect happiness with selfishness. And that is so far from the truth.
Yeah.
I kind of do. Yeah. Like if my dad gives me 20 grand, I should give at least half of it away. Or like.
Well, you had to at least give 2,000 to the church, I'm sure.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I wanted to note that in a conversation with Paul, he about playing music, and it came up that sometimes you play a wrong note, and what Paul was saying is that just keep going. It doesn't matter. Just keep going. And this is life too. You play a wrong note, you keep going, right? don't sweat it. It's okay. It's really not a big problem. Just keep going.
Yeah,
And
don't lose the tempo of life when you're doing it. It
right.
keeps the tempo.
Yeah. And I always remember that. It's stuck in my mind, and I like to remember to remind me of that. And there's another person I follow on podcast. She's called Jeanette Biro, and I think I posted something on her already before. But she's a channel. She's an intuitive, and she also had a near-death experience. So she has actually instantaneous contact with spirit, and she says we cannot imagine how quote quote envious the spirits in the spirits are in terms of us being able to incarnate into a body. And if we would know that, we would look at our life totally differently. And we forget that because that's part of the game, right? But we have to realize that it's an honor to be here.
Eric, what is her last name?
Biro, Jeanette Biro,
How do you spell it, Eric?
Biro. She's
Oh.
Canadian.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Well, Carol, any final wrap up for us? I think that we've all been able to maybe touch some happiness in our hearts and look for ways to do that as we go into our next few weeks.
No, I just really appreciate that everyone here is thinking about this and thinking how it applies to them and how they want to use it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's great. Okay. So we have a closing song called Living in the Moment.
Wow. I really love that song.
That was really nice. Okay.
That was a super cool song, Eric.
Yeah, I like it too.
That video was really cool too.
It
Uh-huh.
says so much. And I
Yeah.
think what I loved most was the line, wherever I'm going, I'm already home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's our happiness right there.
And all those people walking around carrying those letters, all the shots and everything they took, and people taking pictures of people taking pictures, and it was definitely very cool.
So the person who sang that song is Jason Mraz, M-R-A-Z. And I'm sure it's a great song to add to your playlist.
It will be. Yes, absolutely. It is. Yes.
Is he related to Bruno?
I think it's a different spelling. Or maybe he's Mraz, maybe
It's a different
M-R-A-Z.
spelling. It's different.
I'm not sure because I'm not of that generation.
Yeah, I know. I'm not either. So just joking.
But okay, here's the point where we greet each other with namaste. Thanks everybody for being here today. It was a
Namaste.
really great discussion. Namaste.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol Pie. Thank you.
Namaste.
Sorry you had a rough week.
Namaste. And just to know that the Abundant Life Center is an independent spiritual community entirely supported by God's love and your gifts. And should you wish to make a donation, you can do so on the website or through the information that comes through on the email that Cheryl shares with us.